Welcome back to the podcast and to the latest edition of Two Blues Tuesday, where I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. C Money Picks, to talk all things, not just Chelsea, all things football this week. Off the back of last week's World Champions episode, which, if you haven't already, go and check that out. It's done extremely well. I wonder why. Chelsea are officially World Champions 2025. Of course, we're going to mention that this episode next week and every single episode for the next 4 years. If you don't think that, you're getting yourself twisted. But today we're talking transfers. We're going to do a whole squad evaluation. This young, hungry, dynamic squad has been the bane of rival fans' lives. Whether it's been from a financial standpoint, whether it's been from a thorn in the side standpoint, every team hates Chelsea. And it's got to the point where we're looking at a squad that can compete. And today we're going to have a proper look at all the players currently contracted, loanees as well, coming in, who's going out. And we're going to see what Chelsea need to do to get to that point. So, Charms, if you can kick us off, please. How much better are we? How much better is our position now than a month ago? How many wonders has that World Cup worked for our squad?
I mean, the first thing I will say is one thing that I feel like people really hate about Chelsea, and one thing that I always hear, particularly from people like Championship fans, where they don't have necessarily the amount of spend or the money that we do. I live up in Leeds, so I know a lot of Sheffield fans, I know a lot of Leeds fans, Wednesday fans, all of that type of thing. So the way I look at it is when they see a team who's got 45, 50 players attached to the books, it's frustrating and it seems like over bloated and greedy. But what they're not seeing is the fact that we like to do our buys and then do our sells. So we're at the point right now where we've done the buys, and I'll get onto that in a minute, how happy I am with that. But the sales are bound to come. And I think that that's going to be a bulk of our episode, to be honest, is more so talking about departures. Because when you're talking about bringing people into the club, I mean, I look around and bar like, maybe a world-class goalkeeper and potentially even a world-class centre-back, which, to be fair, isn't really like a crazy priority right now. I think that the bulk of the squad is going to get shot off. I think that this has been Bowley's plan for a while. And if you look back to 2 years ago, he was saying, listen, this is not signings for right now. These are future-proofed signings. The oldest player that we had in our squad for a while was Tosin. I think it might still be Tosin. And he's 27 years old. The guy collects cards. The guy's a young kid. And I look at our club a year ago, but I look at our club 8 weeks ago. And I look at the players that we've got now compared to then and the way that we're playing ball. And we spoke about it once again in depth. Please watch last week's episode. But the system that we found now and how these players are integrated into that system. We still got players like Esteval Willian, which would be a de facto starter. And I don't know where he gets in right now. Pedro Neto's made himself invaluable, which 8 weeks ago I would not have been able to say, who's Nicholas Jackson? That was my nine for about 8-9 months. You know what I'm saying? So I think that with what we've been able to not only bring in, but what we've been able to accomplish in such a small period of time with these players. I mean, Joao Pedro went from sitting on a beach to 3 weeks later being the champions of the world. You know what I mean? He's going to be wearing gold in his badge for the next 4 years. And it's deserved, particularly with the efforts that he put in. I'm really impressed with the depth of squad that we have right now. And once again, we have got a lot of players that need to depart, a lot of players that will probably make a loss on. But when you look at the success that we've had for the players we've had, no one expected Palmer to be the player that he is, but he is. And because of that, in Nkunku, as I spoke multiple times over the season, I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up going and making a similar fee back for him. Players like Joao Pedro, who have just walked into this squad and made themselves what they are now. Players like Liam Delap, I'm so impressed in just 2-3 games of football. We're in a position now where when people were talking about, are Chelsea actually in a title race in December? And they were like shocked by it. The narrative's changed to Chelsea are in a title race next season before the season has started. So just to think that we had more negatives really than positives towards that back end of the season. And now the narrative is flipped so much. I think that worry started to creep in for rival fans and that frustration for people that don't really understand the context of the ins and outs. So yeah, once again, I think that I am so ready for this new season. I'm so excited for this new season and what Chelsea are being able to build, the players we brought in. And yeah, I'm curious to see who goes.
Agreed. And we'll get into specifics in terms of individuals later, but you did kind of mention it there. And just if I could ask you very briefly for a numerical answer, how many pieces are Chelsea away? Because at multiple points over the last few seasons, we've got to a point where we've said we're a number nine away, we're a goalkeeper away. How you look at this squad right now? How many pieces do you think we are away from being a solid team where you don't have to upgrade anything in the immediate future?
Yeah, if we had Petr Cech and Thiago Silva, we'd win the league. I'm sure of it.
Fair enough. So not even a nine. You reckon just two pieces away from the
I'm
puzzle?
happy. I'm happy. I'm happy with the situation of if we need it, we maybe can do a Palmer false nine. But right now, when I look at Joao Pedro and Liam Delap, I'm looking at two strikers of very high pedigree sort of levels. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we got more of that aerial threat in Liam Delap, a little bit more of that sort of profile. But then we got a bit more of that muscle, that bully, that technical sort of finisher in my opinion, with Joao Pedro. I mean, you look at his performances in the Club World Cup, you even look at his goal in the final, just slip through, dink the keeper. A keeper like
Mm,
Donnarumma, you know what I mean? It's a world-class goalkeeper. You just can put one over him. Like, it's
mm.
light work. Imagine him doing that in the Premier League against these other teams. Even like a team like Burnley, who structures himself so much defensively, he's going to run riot.
I'm praying that has, bringing them all together in the Club World Cup has just and will just accelerate the cohesion because, yeah, we've said multiple times we didn't expect the team to look as good as they did, particularly in the latter stages against PSG, Fluminense, Palmeiras, some real good team performances. So it is, I think there is a lot to look forward to, far more to be positive about than negative about from a Chelsea fan perspective. But just looking at those confirmed incomings so far, and I know there's probably going to be a lot of people tuning into this, waiting for us to talk about one specific rumour. So I'm just going to address it now. We will be talking about Xavi Simons in about 10 minutes. If you want to get to that, fast forward through these confirmed ones first. But we're going to talk confirmed before we go to rumours. But that is the big topic of today's conversation. But just looking at the confirmed incoming so far. So obviously João Pedro from Brighton, Liam Delap obviously off the mark as well, his first goal. Esteval Willian currently on his break, but will be joining us for pre-season. Dario Esugo, we got to see sparingly in the Club World Cup. Kendry Paez looks like he will be going over to Strasbourg on loan. Same as Mike Penders and Mamadou Sarr, who we signed from Strasbourg, sent on loan to Strasbourg last January. Apparently, we're sending him back on loan again, which, look, if Liam Rosenior has asked for him specifically, I'm not mad at that. Keep the relationship healthy. Does seem interesting, though. And obviously, rounding out the list, Jamie Gittins, the only other player we haven't seen yet in a Chelsea top, although he looks very, very sharp in his pre-season individual training. So excited to see him. Out of those transfers, I mean, obviously, I know it's a bit difficult to say because some have played, some haven't. Are there any you're kind of still not sure on, or any that you're not happy or not understanding? Or because to me, that all looks like pretty good, pretty frugal business.
Yeah, Asugo and Sa are probably the two that I'm a little bit like, Asugo, I didn't really understand the signing, to be honest, especially when I feel like we haven't really started to utilize Romeo Lavia the way that we could. So when you're trying to buy in that sort of similar profile, I don't know, maybe he's a bit more defensive also, but I don't know. For me, that one just felt a little bit greedy, to be
I think
honest.
I
But
think
once
it's I
again,
think it's less defensive, less kind of developed, but also I do feel like Esugo is kind of but I feel like he's maybe he is younger, but I feel like he's got Lavia would develop into the Caicedo, and then Esugo becomes the Andre Santos coming in 2 years. Like you see it, that's how I mean, just off the bat, how I feel it would be.
but that's kind of exactly my point of confusion. It's he becomes the Andre Santos, and what do you mean? Like, do you know what I mean? Becomes that player that's played 2 or 3 games and looked pretty good doing it. Like, we've already got that profile. I feel like right now we don't need any more centre mids because I look at
Mm.
anything in that sort of central side of midfield, and I don't, that two and that one, and even those wide players, I don't really understand why we would need more. I think that Enzo and Caicedo provide a lot, and then I think on top of that, you've got players like Lavia and and Santos who can rotate into those roles. And I know that we spoke an awful lot about him, not necessarily with the nicest view, but we've got players like Dewsbury Hall who have been there and done that and know their role. So if he wants to be like a replacement for the Dewsbury Hall role, then fair enough. But we're not in the Europa Conference League, we're in the Champions League next season.
I
So
don't know. I
I
feel,
think
and this is
quality golf
something
is going to
that's
be different.
only just popped into my head, but maybe, I mean, when you think about it, think about all the youngsters, not just on the books at Chelsea, all the academy graduates you see come through Chelsea, Arsenal, Barcelona. how many of them are central defensive midfielders? And I'm thinking maybe they've seen the blueprint that Caicedo, Declan Rice, 100 mil, Enzo Fernandez, deep line playmaker, 100 mil, Caicedo, 115 mil. Maybe they've just kind of looked at that and gone, you know what? And I'll be honest, out of all the positions that Chelsea have in abundance in the Cobham Academy, I'd say a shin kicker is the least populated. I feel like there are not very many world class players at that level. Maybe that's what they're thinking, in that, look, this is a particularly sparse position. If we see anybody with the potential, let's snap them up. Because, yeah, I mean, it seems the flipping seems to be working so far.
Just as a counterpoint to that, though, like I feel like when you're talking about there not being too many, who won a Ballon d'Or? A deep line playmaker, a deep line six, a defensive midfielder in Rodri. I feel like the position is for sure acknowledged as like something that's not only essential, but like it's needed if you want to become a world class side. And those players, when we were growing up, you had players like Gattuso, and Roy Keane, who in the moment they don't really seem like they get the credit that they deserve. And the players that do are like Vieira, they're a bit more sort of central rather than that defensive, you know what I
But
mean? A little bit more
do you
back and
not feel
forward.
that that position and those players were far more abundant back then? Every team would
Oh,
have a.
100%. Oh, 100%. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, they were way more back then. But I feel like when we're talking about the appreciation of these players, there's a
Mm.
reason we spent so much money on Caicedo to a team like Brighton who are competing with us. You know what I mean? Well, we saw we're not buying Caicedo to make a flip. You know what I mean? We're buying because that is a player that if he kicks on and he's done what he's done at
Oh yeah.
Chelsea, what that does to the team is tenfold. Like it creates the football team. So
Oh, 100%.
yeah,
percent
I think the acknowledgements there are definitely.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
yeah,
I would go as far as to say, I mean, yours wasn't even a counter argument. I think we're saying the same
well,
thing,
fair enough.
in
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah, true.
nowadays they're just valued far higher. Like, you're looking at a centre mid as you would a centre forward or a winger 10, 20 years ago, as your marquee signing, as the glamorous Ronaldo, Messi. Now you're looking at Caicedo, Rodri, Rice. That's now your new glamour.
I think it also comes down to that frustrating thing of people just kind of wanting to sound like specialists nowadays. Everyone wants to have an opinion. Everyone wants to have a podcast. Everyone wants to say that that their favorite player is their defensive midfielder because it makes them sound like they watch more football. But like it is difficult to watch Chelsea and not just be awed by the brilliance of a player like Caicedo.
Yeah, they're 2 years behind on the gimmick. We've been running that for the longest, so ease off. Who would you say is are you most excited about out of those signings? Then obviously we've seen João Pedro, Delap, Esugo. Haven't had a chance to see Sar. You know what? Sar's going out on loan. We'll leave him out at the moment, and also Penders. We'll leave him out at the moment, and Payet, he's going out on loan. Who are you most excited about next season? Then out of Pedro, Delap, Esteval, Gittins. There you go.
Well, first of all, just so it's said, Mike Penders, you can go back 12 months. I've been all over Mike Penders. I think he's the second coming of Courtois. I think he's going to be a serious, serious baller in a year or two. But I honestly, and shout out my career mode save as well for that one. But honestly, for me, it's Esteval. I just can't wait. It's been a while since we've had that Hazard profile that go on and beat your man, and it could be Gittins. It really could be genuinely because he's played at that level in Europe where I've seen him take on players and that stop start. But like it's like you put Madueke in a pack a punch, and you take it back out, you're gonna get a player like Esteval Willian, and I want to see that. I want to see that ability to just slow the pace, nutmeg a man, go round and pick the ball up from the halfway and make it work. If you don't see anyone, go in and have a shot yourself. The one thing that frustrated me with Sancho last season, although I was all over him, I thought he had a really good season, was the fact that it felt like he was just pinging a crossing regardless. But I know with Esteval, if he don't see it, he's thinking you're getting skinned. There's not a fullback in the league that I don't think that he can't
Yenga!
just send on his back. You know what I mean? And he's gonna just turn it in and chop it, blood. And I think that's exactly what we need right now. And I'm so excited to see how he comes into that squad.
100%. I think while you and I are both 100% on the same page that Pedro Neto is a starting winger and cannot not start against Crystal Palace first game of the season, just imagine that Gittins, João Pedro, Esteval, Willian. Ay, 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 eh. Mi casa es su casa, eh. Lo
Oh,
siento,
it's
lo
naughty.
siento.
Yeah, it's
I
fully
mean,
Spanish, but I feel it.
anything else I know in Spanish is sus as fuck. So
Yeah, he
that's
speaks
all.
Portuguese, but I rate it. I rate it. I rate it. I rate
Hey,
it.
listen,
Pero no
obrigado, different.
baila.
Hey,
Yeah, that's the one,
I
man.
need to get on that
That's the one.
Duolingo. Someone hit me up with that Duolingo because,
Come
or
on.
something better because Duolingo sucks. I need to
Word.
learn another language, but it's so long. But from confirmed, go on then. Fuck it, go on then. Let's go rumors.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
There is only one rumor. I was going to say one rumor worth talking about. I think there's only one player rumored to join Chelsea at the moment, and it is Xavi Simons. I've just recorded my short on it. This is a player I've had stocks in for the longest because 2 years ago, back when I used to do shorts saying, oh, market opportunity, 3 years ago, I said Liverpool should sign Gravenberch. 2 years ago, I said Arsenal should sign Xavi Simons. Thank God they didn't because this kid is a baller. One of the hottest properties to come out of La Masia since Lionel Messi. This kid was regarded as one of the greatest talents ever to come out of the Barcelona Academy. Chelsea were interested in signing him as a youngster, didn't manage to make it work. PSG were the ones that snapped him up. But PSG also fumbled the bag and he went to PSV to further develop. Then he went on loan to Leipzig. And that is where he is currently, but he does not want to be there next summer. Reports are that a £70 million bid would be enough to get Xavi Simons away from RB Leipzig. Charms, 22-year-old Dutch flair, attacking midfielder, left foot, right foot, can play central, can play wing. What is there not to like about this deal?
I mean, I remember just to confirm what you were saying. We've been back when I was crying out that we needed a Joshua Kimmich. You were crying out that we needed a Xavi Simons. So this has been something that you've had on your mind for a while, and obviously him and Chelsea have got a relationship that stems quite a while back. I'm pretty sure it was 18, 19 when we were trying to snap him. I have a fleeting memory of thinking that he was in our academy. It was that close to being done. I mean, I really like the guy. I think he's a fantastic baller. I genuinely struggle to see anywhere outside of a 10 that we would play him week in, week out. And that would mean Palmer goes out wide, which is very confusing, particularly with the wide options that we've got at the minute coming in and Neto being in form and whatnot. So it is a little bit, what do we do? Once again, it's a bit over bloated, but I'm not going to question it. If we get a player like Xavi Simons over the line, he starts every time. The kid is technically top 5, 6 as a ball carrier, in my opinion, when it comes to like in a central attacking role. Because that sort of ball carrying role, you associate with wingers going in trying to beat a man. His mix of like playmaking, but also like take-ons and like trying to make stuff happen and keep moving. I genuinely think he's top 5. And at 22, you know what I mean? Like it's scary, scary stuff. I've seen him in the Champions League, and he's a ripper.
Is
He's
he
a
better? Is he better than Florian Wirtz?
I
Oh,
listen.
look at the way you're talking. Look at the way you're talking. And
Hey,
I mean, it's close. It's close.
hey, hey! I'm not gonna make a blanket statement like that right now because I don't want to come across with that delusional sort of mindset. But I think that it's a lot closer than people might, think about. And I think that if Liverpool were to have signed him up, I think all of them would be saying exactly that he's a better ball carrier and he's a better 10 than Florian Wirtz. So I think you just look at the shoe that you're wearing and you kind of like to show it off. And I don't know. I'm not. I think it's very, very comparable, which for a 40 million less in difference, I think says a lot if we get that transfer over the line.
Yeah, I think it's very hard for me to sit here and find anything negative to say about this because I rate the kid so highly because he is that good. Because how many times have we said, oh, we're going for a similar player? Is it an upgrade? Xavi Simons is an upgrade on a lot of the players currently contracted to Chelsea. That being said, I do feel like, similar to kind of what you said, you'd have to facilitate him in the middle. I feel like to best nurture and best develop him, you would have to do what we did with Palmer in that make him a central part of the team, not necessarily undroppable, but a very, very permanent fixture of that 11. And when you
Mm-hmm.
look at what Enzo Maresca's been trying to do in the midfield with Lavia, Caicedo, Enzo, or Santos, there's a potential for a base of 3, which limits the attacking roles even more. Could Xavi Simons play a bit deeper? I don't doubt that he could, but it's not his
Yeah,
forte,
I
not
agree.
his best role. And, how many times have we said it's all well and good having players that can do two, three roles, but we're at a point now where we need specialists. We need out and out, been there, done that. I know my job, you do yours, bish, bash, bosh. Um, yeah, I don't think there are many negatives from a talent perspective, but I do think, I mean, obviously, reports again today that Nicholas Jackson is on the move. I think if we sign another attacking player, I think Jackson's gone. And I don't know whether somebody's going to stump up the cash that we're reportedly asking for, because I don't know if you've seen the reports today, but it's 80
It's
million.
insane. Yeah, it's insane.
But I mean, that's nuts in itself to think that we could pay 70 million for Xavi Simons and get 80 million for Nicholas Jackson. But I do question it, and I do go back to what I was saying about kind of a Sugo in that when you look at the players coming through the Chelsea academy, you've got so many young quality players, even that made their debuts last season. Raksaki, Keanu Dyer, Reggie Walsh, Frankie Runham. You've got quite a few players that are in that central attacking role. They're not really, well, I hate using the term, but it's been coined, shin kickers. They're not really deep lying midfielders. And I do feel like if we are going to look at an area where we don't have anything coming through the pipeline, that needs to be the focus more on the defensive side of things. I think attacking, we've got, like I said, Paez, we've got Esteval, we've got Giovanni Quenda coming in next season. He's just been given the 7 at Sporting Lisbon. So, big expectations on his shoulders. I'm sure the expectations will be big when he comes to Chelsea next season. I just do feel that while Enzo Maresca seems to be pushing the youth, I do feel like the gap's being squeezed. I feel like it was always a tight funnel to be like, right, okay, let's see how many youngsters we can pack in. But I do feel like there is less and less light at the end of the tunnel. And having just signed 15, 16 scholars to their their first professional contracts next season, I do kind of question, because if he's looking to make the step up from Leipzig, game time, impact, from a player perspective, I don't know if Chelsea's the right move.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it is definitely like it's one of them ones, isn't it? You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And I think that there's been a lot of players that have come in and I've had that thought about, you know what I mean? Like, particularly like right now with a player like, Joao Felix, he's still contracted. And I think that people kind of forget about that. And in Kunku and like, there's all these players that I think that there's a million systems that they would work in. But right now, this Chelsea team, when you look at our attack, you don't even think about them. You know what I mean? There's many other options you think about before. I mean, my God, thank God we didn't sign Samuel Omoradion. Like, where would he fit into this? You remember when we were like 10
I
minutes
don't
away
know,
from
man. He was
signing
banging
Samuel
goals last season for Porto. Let me see how many he scored. Bro, he
for
bagged last year.
for Porto? But like, listen, Nicholas Jackson looked unreal in Spain as well. Do you know what I'm saying? And do you think he's a Joao Pedro? Do you think he's a Liam Delap? I doubt it, mate. When it comes to like what they would offer to this system, I don't know. I think he's yeah. I don't know.
He
I
scored
couldn't say how
27
he's going to
goals
stack
last
up in the
season, bro.
for Porto. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
but he
and
scored
what?
6 in
Like,
9 games in the Champions League. But I'm telling you, he's Joe Shield. They knew what they were on when
I
they were
got
talking about him. And we know it was
fuck's
just that we
sake.
just did it to sweet talk into the João Felix deal into happening. But listen, all I'm saying is at this point, I would have rather taken Amora Dion than Felix. 100%.
Oh yeah, out of the pair of them, 100%,
100%. About a third
100%.
of the
Yeah.
wages, half the fee, absolutely nuts. But yeah, obviously, let us know in the comments who would you. Oh, actually, one last question for you, Charles, before we move off that. If you had to pick one, Simmons or Rogers?
Got to be Xavi Simons, and realistically, it's
Really?
got to be
I would have
Simons.
gone for
Yeah, I mean,
Rogers.
listen, I like Morgan Rogers a lot. You know what I mean? Like I do. But when I look at like who's more likely out of the pair of them to genuinely become world class, it's not a question, is it? It's not a question.
I agree, but I would rather have Rogers. I think just with the setup with everyone around him,
Well, yeah,
Palmer,
I was
Lavia,
gonna
Delap,
say,
Shields. I think
and it's a
he'll
little
fit
bit more
in.
familiar as well. It's a little bit more familiar. England under 21s, there's a lot of players in there that he had played with in and around that era. So, yeah, definitely would probably be a bit more of a cohesive fit into the squad. And if you're thinking from like a Chelsea technical standpoint, like, yeah, it'd probably kick on faster. But I'm sorry. It's one of them ones where if you got I'm trying to think of like a comparison for. It's like if you had to pick between a Daniel Sturridge back in the day, who could come in and play with all of these young English players you'd kind of played with, or take like a fucking Seedorf for a central Robben. It's like, come on now, like apples and oranges. Realistically, like it might take
Yeah,
a minute,
slightly different players though.
but
Daniel Sturridge and Clarence Seedorf.
that's what I'm saying though. Like when I'm looking at like fucking profile in and about of like where I think their career get to, I think that Xavi Simons does get to that sort of Seedorf level of he's absolutely undeniably in the middle of his fucking national team. I know it's a different position. I
Yeah.
couldn't really think of a 10 and I didn't want to go with Bergkamp or something
Yeah.
of the sort, you know what I mean? But like when you look at a player like that who's been in and around that sort of, you could tell he was going to be class. You could tell he's going to hang about for a while. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So I don't know. I know for a fact Xavi Simons, the next 10 years of his career, he's going to be excellent regardless of where he goes to. And I couldn't tell you that Morgan Rogers doesn't just have a Marcus Rashford career. I can't say that.
What do you mean have a Marcus Rashford's on his way to Barcelona, bro? Rashford's made it
Yeah,
out
I
the
know, but
hood.
come on.
Rashford's
Come
made it
on now.
out the hood, bro.
Let's not do
Hey,
that.
listen, man,
Let's
for all
not
the
do
stick
that.
he gets and all the criticism that undoubtedly we have given him over the years, big up Rashford for not killing
Yeah,
himself because
100%.
I
Yeah.
don't think I would have made it through the criticism that
He
he's
did
made.
he did the
So
he did the Martin Braithwaite, whatever
big,
that geezer's
big
saying.
big up Marcus Rashford. Get anywhere out of it. I mean, there's no way that Barcelona trigger that clause. 30 million for Rashford. You're having a laugh. He'll be back at Carrington next season, but big up yourself for managing to wangle that move away. But on to the outgoings then, and we'll run through the confirmed transfers first. So obviously, most recently, Noni Madueke, 52 million. I mean, we'd all known it was done for a couple of weeks, but that is now done, dusted. George Petrovic also, absolutely gutted to see him go, but first choice goalkeeper for
Sucks.
Bournemouth. We saw what happened to Kepa, revitalised his career. People actually started to think Kepa was a good goalkeeper last season. So shows you, A, how short memories people have, and B, what one good season can do for you. I think that's a great match for Petrovic, and fingers crossed he has a great season and gets a big money move in the future. Obviously, Kepa to Arsenal, Bashir Humphries to Burnley, Bettinelli, losing Marcus Bettinelli. That is heartbreaking for the dressing room, I can't lie.
Yeah, vibes general.
If we hadn't assigned that, if we hadn't have got that Samoan rugby, whatever his name is, the team camaraderie guy, they would never have let Bettinelli leave. I'm telling you now. But Bettinelli, Lucas Bergstrom, Zach Sturge, Dylan Williams, Marcel Washington, Amugu, Eddie Beach, and Luke Campbell, all confirmed to have left on permanent moves. And then we have also had a few loans this week, talking Mike Penders, Kendry Paez, and Mamadou Sarr, all potentially going on loan to Strasbourg. Aaron Anselmino expected to move out as well. But the most important thing or most interesting thing, I think, of all of these moves, has been the lack of focus, as you've said, on those miscellaneous players. You've got 3 or 4 players in there without a squad number, as you aptly said to me before we jumped on here, without a plan. And those are Ben Chilwell, Axel Disasi, João Felix, Raheem Sterling. Carney Chukwuemeka, we know that Chelsea are still looking to get a permanent move on, and Borussia Dortmund keep trying their luck. You broke bastards. Get your money up, please. How can you have the best atmosphere in Europe and the worst finance? Like, just stump up some cash, please. You're broke. But the players in Ben Chilwell, Disasi, João Felix, and Raheem Sterling, what do you think the future holds for them? Is it a case of we're going to be able to get fees for these players? Or are we just going to have to cut our losses and terminate their contracts?
There are a couple of them like Ben Chilwell where I just think that at this point with the salaries and the wages that they're on, like you just gotta fucking chop it, particularly like, them ones Sterling, Chile, like that. You look at their contracts and you're like, you make 200 grand a week at Chelsea. It's absolutely defamatory towards the club. I get like Chilwell, I understand, he was there for the Champions League final, he looked like he was going to be class, injuries and setbacks and whatnot, goes off to Leicester, didn't quite happen and all of that. But Raheem Sterling, what were we doing with that one? I mean, I know that he's a quality player in and on his day, but he's looked past it for a minute now, particularly at Chelsea, and he's had 2 seasons here. I don't know. I think he could have been gone for a minute. And yet, what were the others again?
Disasi and João Felix.
Yeah, Joao Felix. I think that it's a weird one. I think that it never really happened. It's one of those signings that you kind of forget really happened because he didn't have any impact at all, bar Conference League when no one was watching.
He scored
And
against Barrow.
Do you know what I'm saying? But and then Disasi, like I'm surprised he's not gone. You know, as you said, Chukwuemeka's probably confirmed to be on the bounce, which is mad to me because we literally signed Jamie Gittins from that club. So literally just fork it out if you actually want the player. But like it's not like you don't have the money. We've given you the money. Like we could have made a I'm sure there would have been talks of a swap plus cash, and it just didn't happen. So I don't know. Maybe they just wanted to get one over the line, but yeah, it's interesting to me. Joao Felix, I don't know where he's going to go. I feel like that he's one of those players where, because of the hype around him for such a long time, you know, the contracts ended up getting bigger and bigger and bigger with every transfer, and he never really had it happen bar a season or two at Atleti. So I am curious to see what happens with him. He's still very young as well, should it be said. Well, young enough to have that career resurgence, and he is a technically really, really, really good player. So hopefully we can kick him back onto Spain, but I don't see anything much happening there. All of them, I would say, can sign their death warrant. But yeah, the only two I think that it would probably make sense to just snip it in the bud, cut the ties, is Chile and Sterling. They just cost too much to do absolutely nothing in the club.
Sterling's been awfully quiet on social media ever since he left. I mean, it feels like he's trying to, like, he feels like he thinks we're going to forget he plays for, like, I don't know I don't know what he's trying to do with all this stay quiet nonsense. But you were talking real loud about you're going to see the best of me. Keep talking, bro. I haven't heard him chat I haven't heard his mouth
Uh-huh.
open for about 6 months now. So I've got to agree. I think, yeah, best case scenario, you're getting 5, 10 million. Maybe with João Felix and Disasi, you can get 15, 20 mil if you try and offload him to a Benfica somewhere with a bit of sentimental value. But yeah, we are cutting our losses at that point. But having said that, we've already recouped 108 million in player sales and 84 million from the Club World Cup. Having spent 198 million, we've got a net spend of around 6. And when you think that all of those fees that we've spent are going to be amortized over 5 years, I mean, our finances are looking very, very cushy. But there will undoubtedly be more players leaving. Obviously, we've kind of mentioned a couple, Christopher and Kunku, Carney Chukwuemeka. But a left back that, well, I expected to leave, and I said he can off his fucks as soon as he cut his nose off to spite his face and said he didn't want to play left back. Renato Vega. Chelsea look like they could be getting 45 million for him. And look, I will say, we have elevated this guy from a nobody to a starter in the Portuguese men's team. But I mean, listen, as much as I'd love it, Diogo Simeone, please put the bag down, bro. Please, whatever smach or crack or drugs you are doing, please do not pay 45 million pound for Renato Vega because it will not work out best for you. I'm not too mad about that, but a player that I'm mad at, and I think I know you're mad at as well. I'm very, very surprised that there's rumours that he's leaving. I'm also surprised that it's only reportedly clubs in the Championship that are interested in, because I do think
Yeah,
it is
it's
a
a
Premier
joke.
League
Yeah.
level player. Talk to us about why selling Alfie Gilchrist could be a massive mistake.
I think that personally, like, I've seen a lot of kids in the last couple of pause, but I've seen a lot of kids come into this Chelsea team. Hey, crazy, clip that. I've seen a lot of kids come into this Chelsea side and really try and like, do things, attacking players, defenders, midfielders, try and make things happen and look good. But there's something about, we're talking about aura merchant, you know what I mean? Alfie Gilchrist has got that about him, vocal, loud, physical. And when you talk about a championship player, yeah, I can see him doing excellently in the championship because he's vocal, he's loud, he's physical, he gets stuck in on challenges, he 2 foots people. But the profile of him, and when you actually look at what he's able to do, it reminds me of like a younger John Terry. And as you were saying before we jumped on, John Terry's favourite player at the club, especially at the academy level, growing into his role. I don't understand why we're entertaining rumours when we've got a team like we have at the minute where we can every now and then afford to slip a player like Alfie Gilchrist in and see how he does for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, in FA Cup ties and whatnot, play him for the 90. Or send him out to Strasbourg, see how he does in France, see how he can bring that English style, that proper Barclaysman style centre back into the fold. And you look at our centre backs, a lot of them are like, as much as I do like Fofana and Colwill, kind of like pretty boy centre backs. When we go to the dirty, the toss-in style, that is more so the profile that I see in an Alfie Gilchrist, that, as you called it, and you don't like using it, that shin kicker, that aggressive style centre back who's going to win his aerial duels. who you're going to pin him on a man, he's going to stick onto him like glue, and he's going to, if he gets the chance, do that Rudiger, pick the ball up and can go with it because he doesn't care. You know what I mean? Because he will turn around, trap back, and get to it because he plays with passion. And that's what I like about Alfie Gilchrist, is I feel like he's a proper badge grabbing, badge kissing Chelsea style centre back.
He's a
and we haven't had that for a minute.
Centre back. He is, and you know what you would call for the last 20 years a centre back. And I do agree. I think definitely the way in which he and certain other players have been treated or mistreated, I do feel like they are prioritising. I'm not going to say pretty boys centre backs. I'm going to say ball playing centre backs. I feel like Josh Achimpong. I feel like he's more of a ball playing athletic centre back. The one thing I would say is, yeah, I'd say similar to Alfie Gilchrist, similar to Lewis Hall. I think in terms of when you're looking at, and we love this word on this channel, utilitarian players that can do 2-3 roles, that might have a specialist position. But when you are looking at the back four, the back five that Chelsea play, more often than not, they're asking at least one side to invert. And that's something that Alfie Gilchrist, Lewis Hall, a lot of the players playing in the Chelsea youth system have done for years and have got experience doing. So, yeah, man, I would be gutted to see him leave, and I would be gutted if it was 5 million, because I think of all the players that we've let go, and I've been emotional about, Lewis Hall, Tino, Livramento, some of these players have gone on, well, even in recent years, to have fantastic seasons and to develop into the players we know that they could have been. It would be a massive shame to see that happen with Gilchrist elsewhere. But that being said, I do look at this Chelsea defence and centre-back position, and I do see, Achimpong coming through, Badia Shil reportedly going to be a big part of the team next season, Wes Fofana still reportedly a big part of the team. I don't know if there is, if there's a need for more youth in there, when at the end of the day, the best additions that we made last season were on the other end of that, the toss in, the bringing that experience in. But let us know what you think in the comments. Let us know who your favourite transfer is so far that Chelsea have signed. Also, if there's any players you think we will regret selling, whether it's Madueke, Petrovic, Gilchrist, let us know in the comments. Let us know what you think as well about Xavi Simons. Would you rather sign Xavi Simons or Morgan Rogers? Did Chelsea even need another attacking signing? Whatever it is, make sure to let us know in the comments. Make sure to like, comment and subscribe to the channel as well if you're not. And follow @2Blues Podcast on the Instagram and the TikTok. And we'll see you very soon.